ever tried to put together some like furniture from IKEA, but with instructions from 5 different manuals?
Oh, yeah.
It's a nightmare. Well,
Wow.
imagine that, but with like medicines or medical devices.
Yeah.
That's what companies face when they're trying to, bring these products to everyone around the world.
Right.
It's a maze of rules, but the thing is, these rules aren't just there to, like, trip people up.
Right.
They're actually pushing for everyone around the world to have the same quality and safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in this deep dive, we're going to look at 3 sets of international rules that really make a difference for manufacturing and healthcare.
Okay.
And these are EU Annex 1 and the EU-GMP guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
the Pharmacopeias, the Chinese, U.S., and European ones,
Okay.
and the U.S. FDA's Quality Management System regulation.
It's like they're all trying to speak the same language when it comes to quality, you know?
Yeah, okay, so let's break it down.
Yeah.
First, we've got the European Union's Annex 1, which is part of the EU-GMP guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
These are like the rules for how to make sterile medicines in Europe.
Yeah, so if you think of like an injection, something sterile, Annex 1 and EU-GMP, they tell you everything, like how to build the facility, keep it clean, train the people, and document every single step.
And speaking of every single step, our sources say that the new Annex 1 went from 16 pages to over 50.
Wow.
Someone's serious about sterile.
Yeah.
So who is actually impacted by this? What industries?
It's way beyond just the companies that actually make the medicines. We've
Okay.
got the biotech companies doing like cell therapies, and you've got the companies that make medicines for other companies, the contract manufacturers,
Okay.
and even the companies making the packaging and the equipment. So it's pretty broad.
It's like a ripple effect then. These guidelines affect everyone.
Absolutely.
But what's the point? Is it just so companies don't get in trouble with the EU?
No, it's way more than just checking boxes. When companies really follow these guidelines, they find they actually get ahead. Well, think about it. When you're meeting really high standards all the time, new markets open up and healthcare providers and patients start to really trust you.
It's like a badge of honor, like made in a facility that follows EU-GMP.
Exactly. And our sources also say that EU-GMP can help make businesses run better.
Really?
Less waste, fewer mistakes, and just a smoother process, which saves money and makes things more efficient.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move on to the pharmacopoeias.
Okay.
I thought a pharmacopoeia was some kind of old Greek book, but it turns out it's like an official recipe book for medicines.
It is. It's like a recipe book to make sure that everyone, no matter who's making a specific drug, is making it the same way, to the same standards.
I see, yeah.
We've got 3 big ones: the Chinese Pharmacopeia, the CHP, the U.S. Pharmacopeia, the USP, and the European Pharmacopeia, the EuPh.
Okay.
And a new edition of the Chinese Pharmacopeia is coming out, the CHP 2025.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people are pretty excited about it.
The CGP 2025, that's like the Michelin guide for medicines then. But why have so many different books? Why not just one global recipe for each medicine?
Well, that's where this idea of harmonization comes in. Imagine every country had different electrical outlets.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a nightmare for travel. So harmonization is like making universal adapters so that everything works everywhere.
Yeah, okay, I get it. So instead of having to change a medicine's recipe for each country, you could make it the same everywhere.
Right.
Which, just like EGMP, makes things more efficient and you can sell to more people.
Exactly. And there's a group called the International Council for Harmonization, the ICH.
Okay.
They're like the diplomats of the pharma world, trying to get everyone to agree on the same basic standards for quality, safety, and whether the medicine works.
Interesting. It's amazing how all of this can have such a big impact, not just on companies,
Yeah.
but on the health of everyone around the world.
Yeah.
Okay, last stop on our list is the U.S. FDA's Quality Management System Regulation, the QMSR.
Okay.
This one's all about making sure medical devices are top-notch.
Yes, and the cool thing about this is that the QMSR is a lot like ISO 13485.2016, which is an international standard for medical device quality management systems.
So it's not just a U.S. thing. It's part of this global push for quality. There's that harmonization again.
Yes, exactly. When you look at the QMSR, ISO 13485, and the pharmacopoeias, you can see that everyone is trying to come together. So welcome back to our deep dive into these international rules for pharmaceuticals and medical devices. Before we jump in, you were right about EU-GMP impacting a lot more than just medicine.
Yeah, the ripple effect. We talked about how it impacts biotech, packaging, equipment, like anyone who has anything to do with getting sterile medicines out there. But what's that actually look like in the real world? Can you give some specific examples?
Sure. So let's say you make those vials, the little glass containers that hold injectable medicines.
Okay.
Sounds pretty simple.
Yeah.
But under EU-GMP, there are all these rules for what materials can be used in those vials.
Yeah.
They can't react with the drug. They have to be able to be sterilized, and they have to be designed in a way that minimizes contamination.
Wow. So even something as basic as a vial has to meet all these standards.
Exactly. And it's not just the vial itself. Let's say you're a biotech company and you're developing a cell therapy.
Okay.
These are amazing therapies that use, modified cells to fight diseases, but they're really complicated to make.
Yeah, I bet.
Often you're dealing with live cells that are super sensitive to contamination.
Right.
So even though Annex 1 focuses on sterile medicinal products, the principles can be applied to other areas of healthcare manufacturing where avoiding contamination is crucial.
So Annex 1 is like the blueprint for keeping everything perfectly clean no matter what you're making.
Yeah, think of it like that.
Okay. So seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
These rules kind of create a domino effect, where if you want to make a high-quality final product, you need high-quality everything.
Exactly. And it's all about patient safety at the end of the day.
Right. Okay. So back to the pharmacopoeias.
Okay.
Those recipe books for medicines,
Right?
we talked about the CHP 2025 and this push for harmonization, but why is that such a big deal?
Well, for me, it's like trying to follow a recipe where every ingredient is measured differently.
Huh.
A teaspoon here, a pinch there, a handful of that, you're going to end up with a mess.
Yeah,
So these standardized recipes from pharmacopoeias make a lot of sense.
they do. But why are there so many different ones? Why not just one for the whole world?
It's historical. Each region, developed their own standards. Sometimes it was because of the types of medicines they traditionally used or how their regulations worked or even just cultural preferences.
Okay.
But as the world is, more connected now, it makes more sense to have them be more alike.
Yeah, so instead of having to jump through a ton of hoops to get a drug approved in all these different countries, everyone could be on the same page.
Exactly.
We're talking about the ICH, right?
Right, they're like the United Nations of pharma, trying to get everyone speaking the same language for quality and safety and, if the drug actually works.
Yeah, yeah. So imagine a company makes a brand new drug for some serious illness.
Right.
They've done all the studies, gotten approval in their own country, and are ready to share it with the world.
Yeah.
But then they hit this wall of all these different pharmacopoeias.
Exactly.
Each with their own rules, and they have to repeat tests, change the recipe, tons of paperwork, and all that slows down getting this life-saving treatment to people.
Absolutely. Harmonization would make all of that so much easier. It would be cheaper for the company and people could get the medicine faster.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
But I imagine it must be really hard to get everyone, all the pharmacopoeias, to agree.
It is. You have to think about cultural differences.
Yeah.
For example, some pharmacopoeias, like the Chinese one, have always included herbal medicines, which might not have the same level of scientific backing as modern drugs. Finding common ground on those kinds of things is hard. You have to be really respectful of different approaches to medicine.
So it's not just about the science, it's about different cultures and how they see medicine.
Yes, and that's where groups like the ICH are so important.
Yeah.
They bring experts from everywhere together, help them talk to each other, and figure all that out. It takes time, but it's worth it for global health.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how this is all changing the future of healthcare,
Absolutely.
making it more efficient and available and safer for everyone. So let's shift gears now and talk about how companies can actually implement these regulations in real life. So welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about all these international rules for pharmaceuticals and medical devices.
Right.
And it's been really interesting to see how they're not just about checking boxes, but about pushing everyone to do better.
Yeah, it's like one of those home renovation shows.
Okay.
It starts out as a mess, but in the end, you've got this beautiful space that, really works.
I like that analogy. Okay, so we talked about what these regulations are,
Uh-huh.
but now let's talk about how companies actually put these rules into practice
Right.
and how they can use them to get ahead.
Well, it really starts with having a good quality management system.
Okay.
But I'm not talking about just some, old binder on a shelf.
Right.
It has to be part of how the company does everything.
So it's not just writing it down, it's making it how everyone works every day.
Mm.
How do you even start to create something like that?
Think of it like building a house.
Okay.
You need a strong foundation,
Uh-huh.
and in this case, that foundation is everyone, especially the leaders, being committed to quality.
So the leaders have to, like, really believe in it and show it, not just say it.
Yeah, they have to provide the resources, training, and support so that employees can really take ownership of quality.
So it's a culture where everyone, from the top to the people on the factory floor, care about meeting these standards.
Absolutely, and that's where these standards like ISO 13485 for medical devices and EU-GMP for medicines come in.
Okay.
They're like the blueprints for how to build that quality management system.
But keeping up with all these rules from all over the world must be hard, right? It's like trying to hit a moving target.
It is. One thing companies can do is have a team or hire experts that just focuses on tracking all these changes and helps the company navigate them.
So they're like a GPS for all these rules.
Exactly. And just like a GPS, you have to be ready to, change your route if you need to.
Right. So you've got your quality management system set up, you're keeping up with the rules. What else can companies do to really succeed, not just survive, in this global market?
Collaboration is key.
Okay.
Remember, the ICH is trying to, get everyone on the same page globally.
Right.
But companies can also work together, share what works best for them, and find solutions to problems they all face.
It's like that saying, two heads are better than one. But in this case, it's more like a global network of smart people all working together.
Exactly. By working together and sharing what they know, companies can stay ahead, be more innovative, and make better products that benefit everyone.
So we've talked about a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
From the details of how to make sterile products to the big picture of a more harmonized global healthcare system, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I think it's that all these international rules, even though they might seem really complex, are about making healthcare safer and more effective for everyone.
And by following these standards, companies aren't just following the rules, they're actually part of something much bigger, making healthcare better all over the world.
Right.
It's been really eye-opening to learn about all of this. Who knew that something so technical could be so impactful and even inspiring? Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.